Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Blue is the New White podcast. Super excited about the guest that I've got today. Got to know him pretty well over the last few months, actually. But his name is Nick Cribb, and he's the president of SAM Services, also the president now, as of about 2 weeks ago, of CFESA. That's the Commercial Food Equipment Service Association. And now sits on the same board as I do. So I'm a director. He is the president, and a really great guy with an inspiring story that revolves all around the skilled trades and just goes to show the power of, number one, being honest, and number two, the people in this industry that we all love so much. So Nick grew up at or below the poverty line down south, and wasn't really sure what he was going to do the rest of his life, was never pushed in any direction or another, didn't go to college, actually ended up working at a bank and got wildly good at what he did, all the way up until about 2007 when the big crash came, and unfortunately he was laid off, didn't know what to do after that, and completely lost the identity that he had made for himself over the past few years. So after he was laid off, he was in a pretty dark place. He was working for a uniform company and found his way to a bottle of painkillers, unfortunately, and over the next 3 years would become addicted to painkillers and watch his life kind of circle the drain, for lack of a better term. Well, anyway, of course, there was a breaking point, like there usually is in circumstances like that, and he had a choice of which direction he wanted to go, and he chose correctly. On the back of a friend, he was able to detox and get right, and one day he was helping his church complete a project, and really found his skill in holding people accountable and moving things forward. Well, anyway, owner or a founder of a newly established business took notice. This was one of the owners of SAM Services, who was only 5 technicians at the time, and they were looking for a dispatcher. So Nick came in as a dispatcher for SAM Service, and after a few ups and downs of the years, they empowered him. These leaders empowered him to start holding people accountable and really taking a front seat in the growth of the company. Fast forward a few more years, and they implemented a system that I've talked about before on the show called EOS, an Entrepreneurial Operating System. If you don't know what that is, the book Traction by Gino Wickman is a great read, and we actually implemented that in my company as well a few years back. But anyway, the leadership team had selected him to be the head of the ship as president of SAM Service. So through the years and trials and tribulations, Nick has overcome several obstacles. Some might sound familiar to some of you out there, to realize incredible success and really gain reward by giving it back. Right? One of the things he said on the show was he can only keep what he has by giving it away. And his definition of success is for his kids to say that their dad is their hero. Really one of the most honest, transparent guys you'll ever meet. One of the best conversations that we've had on the show. Really looking forward to all of my listeners being able to take note and hear this inspiring story from Nick Cribb. So listen, don't forget to subscribe to this channel on our website at blueisthenewwhite.com to receive all the latest updates. As always, this show's not monetized. We don't run ads. And we rely strictly on word of mouth from our listeners to further the mission. So if you enjoy this episode, please take a second to rate it, review it, and share it with your friends. The future generations of tradespeople depend on it. They depend on you. So thank you again, and enjoy this wildly inspiring episode of the Blue is the New White podcast with Mr. or President Nick Cribb. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Blue is the New White podcast. Man, am I excited about the guest we've got today. Should have been on the show years ago, if I'm being honest with myself, but finally able to get him on. Mr. Nick Cribb, welcome to the Blue is the New White podcast, my friend.
Glad to be here, my brother.
All right, man. I can't wait for you guys to hear this guy's story, because talk about inspirational, right? And I mean, just lifting people up. This is something that you guys got to hear. And it's a huge testament to the opportunities, the benefits, and just how rewarding this industry can be and what it can do for people. So Nick, man, why don't you take it away? Kind of introduce yourself for those who don't know who you are. Who are you? Where'd you come from, and how'd you get to where you are today, man?
Well, the simplest way is I'm Nick Cribb, just a punk ass from South Georgia. I have no idea how I'm hanging out with Zolan virtually here. But professionally, I am the president of Sam Service Incorporated down here in Georgia. We are in Atlanta, we're in Macon, we're in Albany, hoping to be in North Florida soon. We've got a projects division that travels well outside of our state, and very proud of the work that we do every day and our team that we have here. We're nothing without the guys in the field turning wrenches, the ladies answering phones and plugging away, keeping people happy, and the leaders we have, empowering and holding people accountable. So also newly elected as the president of CFESA. Very proud of that as well from an industry perspective. I have many peers and honestly mentors at this point who have poured into me through CFESA and even the other 5 families that we're a part of, that I'm just very, very grateful and happy to have known these people and to be placed in a position of authority that I take very seriously, and I intend to win as best I can in any regard with whoever's around me. And that's just kind of a quick flyover of who Nick is professionally, personally. I am married. Me and my wife Christina will be celebrating 15 years of marriage coming up this next year. We have a 14-year-old daughter, Bailey. I have a 4-year-old daughter, Bentley, aka Benny Girl. She is Nick Cribb 2.0. And then
how old did she say? How old did you say she was?
She's 4. Yeah,
4.
She's going to turn 5 here next week, but she's 4 right now. And then we got the little man. I finally got me a boy at the very end, Mr. Eason, and he's 3 years old. So we took a little break there in the middle and had 3 kids, and decided to get the dog in the middle of that. So we got Luna running around driving me just as crazy as the toddlers.
Well, congratulations on 15 years of marriage, man. That's awesome, and it sounds like you have a hell of a family over there. And unlike you, I am terrified to try for a third and get my boy. So I'm sticking to 2, man. I'm good with 2 little girls.
Hey, one of our core values at Sam Service is to know your limitations. So I appreciate you leaning into that value that we share.
What? That's all right. I was just waiting for the Groupon, bud. So anyway.
Yeah, one thing about 2 of them is as soon as you go to the third, you have to move from a man-to-man to a zone coverage. So it's a whole different scheme.
That's right. Oh man, that's funny. All right, good. Well, congratulations on that. That is super cool. It sounds like you just you've got a list of accomplishments under your belt. I mean, president times 2. You don't hear that very often. So congratulations on all of your success. Super interested in how that came about, man. Let me tell you. I mean, listening to what you've got going on right now, I can't help but assume that you were just this straight A student, probably all through high school, right? And never got into any trouble, never did anything wrong, and just blazed a path of success. And nobody ever deterred you. That's probably right.
Yeah. One might assume that, and I can assure you it is quite the obvious. So as I sit here on my end of the camera, I'm still in Albany, Georgia, where I was born and raised. Was raised at or below the poverty line for the better part of my childhood. Was born to a 15 and 16-year-old. And I was the second child. So some generational things there. That's what my grandparents had done before them. That's what they did. It just kind of the way things went. And it was a tough life, but not a bad life. And I'd love to honor my mother and my father for everything that they've done for me and that they mean to me. But then there was a couple kids having kids, and did not start out on third base in any regard. Growing up in the place where I came up, it made me really tough. I like to always say I was the white boy in the crowd, the guy that you either had to rap real good, you had to play basketball to fit in. And I learned real quick that just necessarily wasn't true. You really needed to be the most honest version of yourself in any group that you're ever in any regard, socially, economically, really doesn't matter. Real recognizes real. And, um, as I grew up and as I was being formed into the man that I am today, there was many principles and there were many life lessons that I learned alongside people who were going through the exact same struggles I were. And I'm grateful for that today, even though it was tough back then. I'm truly, truly grateful for it. When I went to high school, we had 2,000 people at the high school, and there were 14 white people. And I wore it like a badge of honor that I was the only white athlete. I mean, and it wasn't cross country. I did run cross. It wasn't just cross country, I should say, and it wasn't just baseball. I also played basketball as a shooting guard, and I held my own, man. And I loved, man. If there was a while that I thought I peaked in high school, right? I mean, I was such an enigma there, and I used, the obvious thing of me looking different from the people around me to my advantage, and my personality came out. My ability to connect with people really came out, and most popular, class clown, did really well on the SAT, on the ASVAB. Was just I knew that I had a brain, but never had anybody that pushed me as to what's next after high school. It was never like, hey, you need to join the military or you need to go to college.
Oh,
It
really?
was
So
just
no real direction there, just kind of silence.
pretty much just silence. I mean, by the time I was in probably the 10th grade, Josh, I felt like a grown ass man. I mean, it was just me. And I was making my own decisions. I was doing my own things. I was living on my own my senior year in high school. I went to work. I was the DJ at the local skating rink, and I was off by day, and obviously at night on the weekends. And then whenever I wasn't that, I was cooking chicken at the Zaxby's down here in Georgia, and was getting by, and really was just taking life one day at a time, because that's what I had seen everybody around me. That's what you did, one thing after another. And I got lucky and found myself in a bank one day through a buddy I had of mine, and he's like, "Hey man, they're hiring at this bank. You should apply."
And
And
is this is this after high school?
this is after high school. Yeah, this is directly after graduating high school. I'm in this bank, and my good buddy David's like, "Hey man, you should apply. It's for a teller position, right? I mean, we're not talking about anything crazy." And go to work there, and the same thing started to happen for me. I connected with every single person that I met. I was really good at my job. I understood how to count, and I understood how to balance the books, and I understood how to treat people right, and the processes there in banking, and went from teller to head teller to customer service rep to loan processor to consumer lender to branch manager of a bank to junior vice president. And I was on this trajectory that I wanted to get, and my all the leaders around me wanted me to get into commercial lending. And then 2007, late 2007, came around, and that was the mortgage crisis in America. And it was like this big oh shit moment, nationwide. But in banking, dude, it was a whole lot more than that. I mean, there were times where the bank itself was wondering, once this wave crashes, are we still going to have a bank?
Oof, yeah.
And so it was nuts, right? And so early 2008, I was brought into the office and said, "Listen, Nick, we got to cut back. You're kind of at this spot to where we either continue to pour into you or we can cut bait, and we got to cut bait because of budgetary reasons." And man, I was crushed, dude.
I was going to ask that. Like, that had to be. This sounds like that was your first like real job with actual lots of responsibility and stuff like that. So I mean, to hear that had got to be just devastating. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 25 years old. I'd been in banking for like 7 years. It's all I knew. I had completely attached myself to it. It was literally a part of my name. I would say, "Hey, Nick Cribb, Colony Bank." It was like, you would think my last name was Colony Bank. I introduced myself to everybody that way. It was my identity, man. And I was a badass at it, bro. I mean, I loved it. Everybody that ever came, they were like, "Man, you're going to be a big time banker one day. You've got it. You've got it. You've got it." And then I feel like the rug got pulled out from underneath my feet. My daughter, my oldest daughter, Bailey, who I just told you about, she had just been born. I mean, we're talking 3 months old, bro. Just got married, just bought this house. We bought this house, and mean, we bought it right at like literally the worst time that you could buy a house in 2000, like the peak of the market when everything was sky high. And then boom, 6 months later, I mean, it was like 40% less value. And, you're 20, 24, 25 years old, man, and you feel like you're, 100 grand in the hole. It feels like, it's
Oh
over.
gosh.
I've ruined it. I'm holding this little baby. And while my wife's going to work, she was a nurse, um, and just felt like an absolute failure, man. I mean, I saw no way out. I could not find work anywhere. I tried to do everything I could to go to work with what I felt like my skill set could provide, like I could add value to, and there just weren't any people that were hiring. And I ended up going to work for a good company, it's a uniform company, linen and rugs and uniforms and all that stuff. And went to work there. And I just remember the biggest part of that job is I remember walking in the back door of an archery business that I had helped that guy get the funding for. It was his dream to open up this archery business. I was his banker. I got him the funding, helped it, was a part of the ribbon cutting with the chamber and all that.
Wow.
And I'm walking in his back door and I kicked up his rug with his logo on it, put it under my arm. And I remember just the look on his face, like it was pity, right? He pitied me. And it made me, I was so ashamed in that moment. I mean, I felt almost like I would imagine a beggar must feel when they're at rock bottom. And, the reality is I should have been grateful that I had a job during that economic downturn at all. But again, my identity was Nick Cribb, the banker, and now I'm kicking up rugs. And, my foundation was so sandy that I didn't have any footing on who I really am. And that began, that's whenever during that time I was depressed, had no direction, and I was introduced to a pain pill. And I remember the first time that I popped that freaking pain pill, and it was actually one that's it doesn't have any aspirin in it. It's called a Roxy. I broke it in half, stuck it under my tongue. That's what the guy told me to do. And man, I just felt this freaking blanket come over me, and I was like, hell yeah, bro. I am back. This is how I'm used to feeling. I'm used to being happy, full of energy. I know who I am. I feel good, look good, feel good, all that stuff. And it really did solve a problem for me. Like I was not in depression anymore. And I felt like I had energy. I was grateful for my job. But it was really all a lie. It started to erode very, very quickly. What I found was that I then would, for the next 3 years, chase that feeling that I had when I broke the one in half, even when it turned into 3 and 4 in the morning before I brushed my teeth because my gag reflex was so bad because I was so strung out on this shit. And it completely crippled me and turned me into a human being that I never thought that I would be. Uncharacteristic decision making, uncharacteristic relationship management, uncharacteristic character in general. I had become a drug addict, and I didn't know what to do next. And basically, the rock bottom for me was I had passed out in my daughter's bed, and she's probably 3 years old at this point. And it's the middle of the day, and my wife walks in there, and she went to sit down beside me, and it's like she said it was so wet with just my body sweating. My body was, I was just poisoned, man.
Yeah.
And she sat down and said her pants got wet, right? She's like, what the hell's going on with him? She's like, Nick, wake up, wake up, wake up. And she couldn't get me to wake up. And she wasn't really freaking out. She figured I was just passed out or sick. But my phone sitting over there on my daughter's nightstand just bzz, bzz, bzz. And so she said, let me pick this thing up just to make sure. And what she saw was just dozens and dozens of text messages and missed calls that were all associated with being a dope boy or a dope fiend or whatever you want to call it. And so she screams, and I get up, and she essentially kicks me out of the house. She's crying, right? She's like,
so did she know that it was this bad, or was that part of it hidden from her?
Yeah, man. Honestly, I'd hidden it from everybody. Nobody. This was something that I did completely on my own. There was a group of people that I ran with,
Sure.
in the dark, but they were all hiding just like I was.
Sure,
and,
sure.
So when this came out, I mean, everybody was shocked, right? Everybody's like, damn, I imagine some people, like my wife, like looking back on it now, she's like, yeah, you kind of were acting like a drug addict. But, at that moment, it was a big shocker.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she basically told me, I've got to do at this point what I have to do to protect. And she said, my daughter. It's the first time I'd ever heard her say, not our daughter. She said, my daughter. And she's like, I love you, but I just need you to get your shit together. You got to figure this out. And so I did. I knew at that moment, and it took me probably 48 hours to realize that I had no other choice but to ask for help. And I went to a really close friend, told him I'd been screwing up. I didn't know what to do next. I told him that I had been considering taking my own life because I just felt like there was no way up, and I didn't want to do that. And he grabbed me in my arms and held me, and he took me to detox the next morning. I went from detox straight to did 10 days, the worst 10 days of my life. Went from there to
How long?
rehab.
How long was this period of your life where you were taking these painkillers?
It was about 3 years. It was about 3 years, but the last 12 months was different. The
Yeah.
last 12 months was the last 12 months, my tolerance had been built up so much, and sheesh, man, God's given me talents and abilities and skills to where you put me in a drug culture, a guy with a personality like me and talents like me, like I got myself in some shit, man. I had myself in some stuff. I was like,
Yeah.
the normal guy might can go out and score, 40 pills. I mean, I could go out and score many, many more,
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
guys. Well, I'll get these to take care of that, and then I'll square it with this, and the whole hustle life.
Yeah.
And so as that finally all came crashing down and I went and got some help. I found myself in this, detox and then in this rehab where I'm just being open and honest about everything. Like I was like, you know what, screw it. If I'm going to get any better, I got to deal with this stuff. And, my counselor told me, he's like, it's not the drugs. The drugs aren't your problem. The drugs are a symptom of a mental issue that you have. And, you got to break through those barriers. And, so I went to those dark places, man, and I explored them and I seeked healing. And my own personal belief system, which I try to be a very, very good steward of, never pushing my belief system on anybody else, because I would hate for anybody to do that to me. Just I found. The God that I found is Jesus Christ and the personal work of the scriptures and the gospels. And through that, I created a new identity. And this new identity is that I'm forgiven and I'm justified and I deserve to have joy and peace and victory. And the things that were done to me that I unpacked, the things that I'd done to others and the things that I'd done in general don't define me anymore. I'm defined by a God that said he loves me and says that I'm viewed just like he is. And I kind of started walking in that truth. But it's just kind of churchanese if you just do it that way, right?
Yeah.
What you got to lean into is the practicalities of those principles. If I say I'm a follower of my belief system, which is Christianity, then what are the principles of Christianity that I need to lean into, and ultimately I need to hold myself accountable to? And I started to do that fiercely, and it's principles and truths I still lean into today. And through that, I went straight out of there. I went to work at my church. My church was doing a building renovation, and they were like, "Man, sweet little Nick, let's just keep him in a safe place and put him in here." And they were doing this renovation, and they had these people in there that were just completely kind of taking advantage of the pastors and the leadership there, because they're all nice people, like, "Oh yeah, thank you for coming, God bless you," all that. And I'm like, man, you need a G. Y'all need an OG that can hold these jokers' feet to the fire and get this done. And if y'all want to be rolling by Easter Sunday, y'all got to get out of the way. And I kind of took the reins, and I exceeded expectations and accomplished the goal for them well earlier than they ever expected. And there was a man that was part of the advisory board of the church. His name's Kurt Scott, and Kurt Scott is the S in Sam. So Sam services Scott Alligood Moorhead, and Kurt said, "Hey, I got this new business. It's been open for about a year, and we need a dispatcher." He's like, "The one I got's not working." He's like, "I'm going to fire him." He's like, if you want the job, I'll hire you right now. Sight unseen, $10 an hour. And I was like, cool. I was like, well, it's just really important for me to be in a safe place. Right. This was not even, I was not even a year clean yet. And I said, I just want to be in a spot to where I can do really good work. I can be held accountable, and I can just not take a pain pill today, just one day at a time. That's how I started my life at Sam Service.
And you were open and honest about this. Like you just
100%
from day one. See,
yeah.
And I think that's some really good advice that I want my listeners to take away. And you said it early in the show, right? Be the most honest version of yourself. So you knew this when you were young. This was something that was ingrained in you before you went down this road, and you leaned into it after, right? Because of the importance of what that means. And I want everyone to understand too, that's for better or worse, right? That's the good, the bad, and the ugly. Be honest with who you are. It doesn't mean don't fix it. It doesn't mean use it as an excuse, but it means, be honest.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you got to be. You can't do anything with a lie, man. You know, a lie begets another lie, begets another lie. And what I've learned is truth and honesty begets deals, and deals beget deals, beget deals. And I want to make good deals, and I want to stack up trophies, and I want to be victorious, and I want to freaking win. It cranks my tractor, man.
Yeah.
And, so probably 5 total employees at Sam Service at that time. I'm dispatching. We got 4 techs. I think I was there about a week. 2 of them quit, so now we got 2 guys out there closing tickets. And, we kept grinding and kept grinding and kept grinding, hiring people. You lose, you hire 3, you lose 1, you hire 4, you lose 2, until we finally developed our culture. We had our feet under us long enough, probably about a year, 18 months. And, I asked for more authority that I wanted to be a good steward of. I told him, I was like, I don't want to be the boss, just tell people what to do. I was like, these jokers need to be held accountable, and they need structure, and you're not going to get it unless you give it to me. You got to let them know. And they empowered me, and they trusted me. And then the company doubled in size. And then next thing you know, we've got this thing that's growing, and it's had a really big pace. And we started doing this entrepreneurial operating system, and it says, hey, you got to get real about the functions of your business, and at the highest level you've got to have an integrator, and that integrator's got to run all the major functions of your business. And my leadership team, which is Kurt, who hired me, Alan Allagood, one of the founders of the business, who's 12 years my senior, Jim Eason. If that name Eason sounds familiar, I named my son after him. Eason Nicholas Cribb. My son is named after Jim Eason. That's how much I care for him. He's 15 years my senior. And John Moorhead, a local attorney here, who's the M and Sam, a very accomplished man. They all looked at each other and they said, Nick, we're going to do it. It's going to be you. You're the guy. And that was, it was incredibly empowering, right? To be this guy with a whole bunch of reasons they could point to say, hey, it'll never be you.
Yeah.
They said, no, it's got to be you, and we trust you. And that.
What's the first thing? What's the first thing that you said to your wife when you came home that day and they said, you're the guy?
Yeah. So I went home to Christina that day, and I sat down on the couch, and I said, baby, you're never going to believe this, but they just named me the president of Sam Service. And she was like, what? Oh my God, Nick, that's great. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if it is. And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, well, I thought they were all smart guys, but I don't think they know what the hell they're doing anymore. So, but it was humbling, right? And 2 of the main principles that I walk on from the belief system that I told you I operate through today is humility and gratitude, man. My life takes one step at a time, and it's one with humility and another with gratitude. I do not deserve the life that I have today, but damn it, I'm so grateful for it. So through the lens of that, I want to give it all I got. You know what I mean? Because it could be and should be so much worse. And then after that, there's still a lot of work to do, right? I mean, we were, I'd say probably at that point, $2.5 million in revenue, when that happened. And so we keep growing. We make a very strategic decision to not only go to CFESA, but to become a part of it, to lean into the training that it offered. And, the networking that it said it had there and the opportunities to pick up, we wanted to build warranty relationships and we wanted to build dealer relationships. And we honestly just wanted some peers that had been doing this longer than us for us to just say, hey, we haven't been doing this that long. Can we just talk with you? Like to your point at the bar, can we talk and just have a chat? Is this, when you had 10 texts, what did it look like? And we wanted to lean into all that. And through that, I found again, you put me in a room full of people and I'm open and I'm honest and I'm just me. And this thing just starts happening. And and I just started connecting with a lot of people. I've made lifelong friends through CFESA circles, and honestly, even in the NAFM and MAFC and FEDA circles as well. There's people that I've been able to meet and communicate with that have helped me grow as a man and to help our company, Sam Service, become a better version of itself. And, here we sit in 2022. We're chasing $8 million in revenue this year. And, we're staring down the barrel of another branch. Our big, hairy, audacious goal is to have 20 branches by 2032. And, I like our chances today. And I'm grateful to be a part of it.
Well, congratulations on that success. And I mean, it sounds like you have a hell of a vision for the company and are on a war path towards it. And that's awesome. And that's inspiring, especially for the people who listen to this show about what's possible, given where you come from and where you are today, which is just astronomical. And I got a ton of respect for how you got there too. Really, really incredible stuff. I got to ask, I mean, when you were in high school, taking me all the way back, what did you think you were going to be doing at your age today?
The sincerest answer I can give you is I was completely okay with not having a damn clue. I had no idea. And to be as ambitious as I am today, that kind of blows my mind. But back then, man, I didn't care. It was all about the next Friday night and just, hanging out and having fun. And I was enjoying life moment to moment so much that I saw no need to plan for the future, nor had I ever seen any example of anybody else that had. So I was just rolling with it. So grateful to be where I am today.
That's awesome. What's the most rewarding part about what you do right now as president of Sam Service?
Man, I feel like this story that God allows me to have, that I can only keep this victory in my life that I have by giving it away to others. And I think that I'm able to give the people that report to me and the people that are within my organization, like I'm giving them freedom and courage to just be honest with themselves. Like, you don't got to be freaking perfect. You don't have to have the best story or be the most educated person, or, you just don't have to be damn Debbie Do-Right. You can have made a bunch of mistakes and be making mistakes right now. And it's okay. Let's just be honest with each other. And there's a lot of progress that can come from that. And it really cranks my tractor to produce other leaders. I've had people, obviously through my story, people took a chance on me, right? And they poured into me, and it turned me into a rocket ship, man. And they were my rocket fuel. So I want to be the rocket fuel for other rocket ships. And I have a strong desire to see people win.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really, really awesome. And I wish more people had that mindset. And I think that, with people like you at the helm of stuff like this, we can teach more people to have that mindset, because it can be taught. I really do believe that it can be taught. Just a couple more questions for you. I know that you're going to be short on time here in a minute, but what is the most difficult part about what you do right now?
So I guess the most difficult part of my job now is to be okay with slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Because I am to finish that statement, they say slow is smooth and smooth is fast, but quick will get you killed. And I like to be quick, and I like to be really, really to ride my emotions when I'm feeling any type of way. And what I'm learning is that people need me to be stoic, and they need me to be well thought out, and they need me to be not only they need my motivation and my energy, but they don't need it all the time. I got to pick my spots, and oftentimes that means me dying to self, not being Tony Robbins, right? maybe being Nick Saban in my staff meetings and saying, okay, hey, it's fine. We're off track on revenue. We got 3 weeks left. It's fine. Let's get back to the basics. Are we managing overtime right? Are we calling on existing customers? Are technicians trying to mine more calls while they're on site? And to not be like rah rah about that, but to just be measured and more smooth with my approach. And that can be very, very difficult for me.
Yeah. No, I relate to that a lot. And I can tell your personality. Like let's go. Let's dig our heels in. Let's go.
Damn right.
You know, what are you waiting for? This is how and I've got the same personality. We do have to temper that because there's a lot to be said about pace of change in any organization. Listen, at the end of the day, there are very few people, if any, in a company, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're president or whatever, you know, that don't have the same vested interest as you. Of course, you want everybody to, right? But at the end of the day, you got to be real, be honest. And that's just not the case. To some people, this is a job, it's a career, you know, which is great, but they're not president, right? They're not the owner. And so, you know, when you're used to that pace of change and you've got that drive and motivation, you know, in positions like ours, if we don't temper it, to your point, can get us into some trouble.
Absolutely.
Right on. All right, one more question for you, bud, and then I'll let you go. I love to talk to people on the show about success because in my book I go into what success means for each individual, right? And how a career in a skilled trades organization such as ours can help people live whatever their definition of success is. So I'm curious, Nick, at the end of the day, personally, professionally, covers everything. What's your overall definition of success? If you're laying on your deathbed and you say to yourself, I've lived a successful life, what does that look like?
If my kids one day say that my daddy is their hero, then I can't think of a better life that I may have possibly been able to live. I want to be for them everything that I, you know, kind of always yearned for. And, but not just like a standard, you know what I mean? Not like just a man, he was a good dad and he's there and he loved me and he left me some money, but like my daddy's my hero.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be pretty damn dope, bud.
It's a hell of an answer, man. And I think that's telling to your character and your personality and who you are. And I think a lot of people out there are going to respect that and admire that. So listen, before we jump off, is there anything else that you want to say to our audience? Listen, I could sit and talk to you for 6 hours at a time on the show. I know there's a lot in that story that we kind of glazed over, and man, so many lessons that are ingrained in you know your journey. But for today's show, anything else that you want to say before we hop off?
Yeah, I would just say, man, if there's anybody that is struggling with any mental issues or many illnesses of any kind, not just addiction, right? Just the only way you're going to do it is to ask for help, and it's okay. And it can end up being the platform that honestly propels you to heights you never thought you'd ever reach. Because there's one thing I know about mental illness, it's that it puts you in a cave, and you will be there if you stay alone. Like it's kind of one of the things when you're there is it needs to be isolated. So shine light on it, ask for help. You can do it. I mean, if I can do it, I mean, and I'm only doing it so far, right? I mean, I still got a lot of life that I can screw up. And I'm humble enough to admit that today. And I'm grateful enough that I've been through enough and not screwed it up today. But if you're out there and you're listening and you're going through something that, you know, if there's a God that loves you, there's a way out. And I would just encourage you to pick the damn phone up or send the email and just ask for help today. Just start it today. And, you know, doesn't have to look like me. There's a lot of other people it looks very different. And if this video and me just bearing my soul yet again, you know, I can only keep what I have by giving it away. That's why I'm so open and honest about my story and everything I've been through. Is if it helps one person, you know, even get one step closer to joy, peace, patience, you know, in their life, and victory, then that would be really cool. So I appreciate you allowing me to come on and just keep it real, bro.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And I love that, by the way. You can only keep what you have by giving it away. That's some powerful stuff. And I hope that people out there heed that advice. If you are struggling in any capacity, man, get help. You'll be happy that you did. I know too many who didn't and didn't make it out the other side. So Thank you for sharing, Nick. That's that wonderful story. Very, very inspiring, and just incredible what you've been able to accomplish. So, where can people find you, man?
All right, so I need to get better about getting on social media, but I am on LinkedIn. You can find me at Nick Cribb. I am also on Facebook, which I'm getting more studious about keeping my game up because I got buddies in the industry that tell me I'm better because the whole world is. And if you wanted to connect with me, probably the best platform would be LinkedIn. I check that one the most, but I'm also on Facebook. And my email is cribb, CRIBB, at samserviceinc.com. If there's ever any way I could help you with what we talked about today, or if you want to shoot me some business so I can help my company grow, that'd be great.
Awesome. Well, Nick, thanks so much for joining us today and telling us your story, man.
Yeah. Thanks, bro.